Good morning, welcome. Today we're going to learn how to live long. It's been a topic that was researched, different opinions, ideas. Don't eat junk food, red wine. A wise person said if you have a little of whiskey every morning for 92 years, you'll live long. There's different ways of going about it. Has the key to arichas yamim, the key to long life. 3. One is the 10 Commandments. And Torah says that a person should honor their parents. It says honor your father and man in order that you should have a long life. Which clearly states that you're living long. There are many explanations why this mitzvah has that long life. Maybe it takes a very long time to help. That is one of the things which gives long life is honoring father and mother, which is greater than their life. Like the concept is that honoring parents is one of the ways where a person comes to long life. That's number one. The other two are in this week's parsha. One of them is where Torah says the mitzvah of having honest and accurate measures. Back in the before you had electronic scales, the way that you would weigh something is you have a scale, and on one side you put a weight that's a pound or a kilo. Coming to Rosh Hashanah, and the image always is judgment, and Hashem is weighing the good versus the opposite of good. But that's what a scale is. A scale has those has a weight, and you measure. Now it's easy to steal and cheat this way because you're the one that provides the stone. You're a shopkeeper. You're selling nuts. You're selling a pound of peanuts if there's no allergies. And this decrease it a little bit. You could say it's a pound, but really that stone is a little bit less than a pound. And this is them for that full pound. So Torah tells us that you have to have accurate weights and not to cheat that way. Not only are you not allowed to use those inaccurate weights, you can't even have those inaccurate weights. If this is a pound, it has to be a pound. You can't add something else to it. You can't own, you can't hold, let alone operate with something which is not a kosher life, is having honest and just. Some of the people in charge, but please take a moment and like, share, subscribe. Let's get the learning spread around. Watching this on the replay, welcome to ask questions in the comments. We'll try to address it. So the third one is Shiluach Kain. Means when you want to add, you need to send away mother bird first before you take the babies. She can't see how you're taking the babies. And if you do that, Torah promise the Lord is, you guessed it, long. Okay, so 3 things: honoring parents, being honest in your weights, and I don't mean the workout weights, but in the selling and you should probably be honest in those weights to work, because you just fool yourself. I believe it was the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Rebbe, told the Rebbe that you can really only fool yourself. What's the big deal? Fool a fool. Basically, any weights, don't be dishonest about it. But the point is that these 3 things, life, having parents, having just weights, and not and sending away the mother bird before you take the babies. Now, the question is, what's the connection between these 3, the common denominator between them? They all give you long life. The thread between honoring gives you long life. There's a story that 2 shopkeepers, they had their stores across from each other. One was a baker, and one was the produce guy selling fruits and vegetables. And the produce merchant, he was business. People were always in the shop, coming and going, busy. He was making clearly a lot of money. Things were great. The baker, on the other hand, he wasn't doing well. So he spent all his time looking across his store and watching the other merchant earn all this money. And obviously he didn't enjoy it. And he schemed and planned. And how could I get this produce guy out of business? Well, one day he had an idea. He came in, he ordered a pound of potatoes, probably 10 pounds of potatoes, and he brought it home, he checked it, and he saw that it wasn't exactly a pound. He was shortchanged, it was a little less than a pound. And he went out and he said, guys, this produce merchant is a thief, he's a cheater, you think you're so great, you think you're so nice. Trust me, I'm the merchant across the way from him. I see him all the time. I actually just bought stuff, I weighed it. Do it for yourself. Here's a pound, a kilo, and it's not the right amount. He's shorting everyone. And in no time, people stopped coming to his place of business, and 50 years of reputation was going down the drain. Not only that, but he also had the problem with the courts. He was arrested. They let him go home, but they said he has to come to court, and the produce merchant is going to have a big problem. Well, finally, it comes to the court date, and everyone's there. People from the town are there. They're upset. The baker obviously is there. The produce guy is there. And the judge says, do you have anything to say for yourself? So he gets up and actually have a comment here. Sorry, I'm being distracted by the people behind the camera. It's hard to hear you. I'll wait for the next teaching. Let's put on the microphone, see if it'll help. And maybe we'll move the class tomorrow to a quieter place. But thanks for the feedback. Just put the microphone inside. This might help. It only helps, I think, if it's plugged in. Okay. Testing. This might be better. So, I don't know if Zenny's still on. So they come to the court date, and the judge asks him, is there anything that you want to say for yourself? He said, listen, I feel terrible that the entire town was cheated for so many, I don't know how long this was going on for years. And they were shortchanged, and it's not fair. But I want to tell you what I do every single morning. I have a ritual. I don't trust myself. So before I open the store, I go across the street to the baker, and I buy a loaf of bread that's 1 pound. And then I come into my store, and I measure my weights against his pound of bread. And if it works, then I use it. And obviously the end is, as you could imagine, he was the one in trouble, and his reputation was restored. The Rebbe explains the thread between these 3 mitzvahs that give you long life: honoring parents, being honest with your weights of measuring, and Shiluach HaKein, that they all add positivity and goodness to the world. It creates a certain pleasantness, peacefulness around you. You're giving something good to others. You're creating, really lengthening life, and therefore your reward is midah keneged midah, measure for measure, where Hashem gives you that as well. Let's elaborate on these 3 and see how that works. But first, to clarify that there are many opinions what this means, long life. Is it in the literal sense? Does it mean in some kind of spiritual sense? In the world to come, it's longer life. Is a greater reward? There are many ways to look at this. Obviously, we want to go with the most simple explanation, that it means long life literally, in the physical sense. But let's look at these options. So a person that honors parents, it gives them longer life. And studies have shown that children that are involved in their elderly parents' lives, their lives can be lengthened because of the care, because of the concern, even because of the emotional attachment that they have, the lack of loneliness, and many other things that happen. So when a person honors parents, it gives them longer life in the physical sense. And because you're providing that in some manner, or the mitzvah provides that in some manner, the reward is long life. So it's midah keneged midah, measure for measure. The same applies when it comes to weights. When you come to measuring, you're honest in your business, the whole interaction is pleasant. You're not cheating the other person. You're not trying to get him. He's not becoming all suspecting and then questioning you and creating this animosity and this constant tension between you and the other person. So when you have that honest dealing, that straightforwardness, what's called transparency, everything all around is more pleasant. And that lengthens the life of the person. You're bringing peacefulness and pleasantness to the interaction, therefore to the situation around you, that rewards you in a similar measure. It makes the people experiences are smoother and better. You don't have to bring examples, but I'm sure everyone has their own examples when they come into a certain business transaction or any type of thing they have to take care of, and there's a lot of tension involved. It's stressful, and whether you don't trust the person or you're afraid they're going to cheat you or whatever piece is there, it's the heartache is not good for anyone. So when you are being straight about it, the reward gives you long life. What's the deal with moving away the mother bird? I don't want to take a guess. Leads is a compassionate thing. It's not the reason why we do it, but it's a nice thing to do. It's kindness. You behave in such a way when you're kind to others. When you do kind things, it causes you to be kinder. Even if deep down you don't feel that way, but if you're acting that way, if you're pleasant, if you are friendly, if you're kind, you're giving, you're doing nice things, the Gemara tells us, the Chinuch tells us that acharei ha'pa'ulos nimshachim ha'levaves, which means after the actions, the hearts follow. So when a person does a certain habit, a certain behavior, it causes you to feel that way also. So that type of mitzvah also gives you long life, because what you're doing is developing that as a result of that. Again, it's not the reason, but you're developing a character of kindness, of compassion, which creates longer life. And in general, this is a good example where we see that the Eibishter works with midah keneged midah, measure for measure. Right? The famous joke of the couple that got into a fight with each other. They weren't talking, but he really had to get up early the next morning for some kind of meeting. So he left a note by his bed on the nightstand for his wife. Please wake me up at 5 a.m. I must get up for this meeting. He couldn't ask her because they're not talking. So the next morning he wakes up, he sees the sun is shining from the windows, and he's all really upset. It's so late. He turns over and he sees under the note, there's another line that says, husband, it's 5 o'clock, wake up. Measure for measure. But based on this, the Rambam explains what is it that we say in Be'er Shachar every morning. We say, Elu Dvarim She'ein Lahem Shir. We talk about the things that have no limit, and the items or the mitzvahs that we have, which have reward in this world. And the peiros, the results or the dividends are in this world, but the keren, the principle remains for the world to come. We list a bunch of different things. And if you look at these things that we list, it's honoring parents, gemilas chasad, being kind, waking up early in the morning to daven, being hospitable, visiting the sick, helping those that need to get married, escorting those that have passed, and so on, bringing peace among others, among couples, and among people. All these things give the reward of this world. Why? Because you're doing something positive in this world, specifically. And that's the common denominator between these things. Even davening, which a person davens, you're asking for your kashmishtika needs as well. And when you ask for your physical needs, that's also enabling you to do more for others to help others. It's a physical type of mitzvah. For the measure for measure is also this physical world. I'll conclude with a famous mashal, an analogy or a story that's told, which also expresses the measure for measure. There was once a contractor, built many houses, and he had his foreman. The guy was, if he needed like really good money, we would ask him to do it. And finally, after many treated me well, I'll do it. So he says, fine. And he gives him the plans, and he gives him everything, and builds a house. This fellow was already, 1 foot out the door. He wasn't so interested anymore. He wanted to get this job done and retire. So he quickly went about his business, but didn't use the best materials. He was lax. But he did finish the job, and it looked okay, but he knew deep down it wasn't really the best workmanship. Not the best product, not the best materials. And when he's finally done, he comes to his boss and says, okay, now I'm going to retire. That's my goodbye gift to you. Midah keneged midah, in the positive sense, is the schar, the reward for arichas yamim. Again, not the reason why we do it, but the example and the common theme between these three mitzvahs. The Torah tells us long life, of honoring parents, chasing away the mother bird, and having honest and just weights in business. Thank you for joining. Wonderful day. No.